Joe McKay, I'm retired FDNY, now on 9/11 and headache disorder advocate.
Tom Wilson, NYPD, member of the 9/11 Feel Good Foundation.
John Field, 9/11 responder, founder and president of the Feel Good Foundation.
Rich Palmer, retired warden from New York City Department of Correction, member of the Feel Good Foundation, John Fields number 1.
In 2005, I started the Feel Good Foundation, and I surrounded myself with smarter people than myself. I tripped, fell down, and created the Feel Good Foundation. But after 9/11, and after spending 11 weeks in the hospital, I didn't have the Feel Good Foundation to advocate for me when I was personally going through my own struggle, my own fight. And I got to the point where I didn't want to see anybody else suffer like I did. And I started the foundation, and we grew. We were that little engine that could, and we became that big engine that did. And we did it more than once. But we were a reaction to the lack of action by the federal, state, and local governments after 9/11. The foundation should never have even been created. And what I'm most proud about, we've helped now pass 13 pieces of legislation in DC, Albany, New Jersey, Michigan. We've donated over $8 million. But what I'm most proud of is the friendships that I've garnished over the last, going on 20 years now, and 15 years as the Feel Good Foundation. Nothing will fill that void for me personally than the friendships. Everything else, those are just accolades. It's just padding the resume. But I wouldn't trade the friendships that I've made over the last 15 years for anything, because those are non-negotiable. And when I give my friendship and my love, it's for a lifetime.
On 9/11, I was employed with the NYPD. I was a BAT sergeant. That stands for Burglary Apprehension Team Sergeant. That morning I was working. I had 5 officers under my command. That happened to be primary day. So my crew was assigned to primary details throughout the 9-0 precinct, which covers Bushwick and Williamsburg, Brooklyn. I was following up on a burglary that happened the previous day. And when the first tower hit, I responded over to the Williamsburg Bridge, which goes from the 9-0 precinct into Manhattan. And I went over there with anti-crime sergeant Richie Payton. He covered the Brooklyn side. I covered the Manhattan side over at Delancey and Clinton. And just to secure that bridge so emergency apparatus could get across. Again, that was the first plane. Just thought it was an accident. Then the second plane hit, and then my mind and my outlook the rest of that day, or probably the rest of my life, changed immediately, and it reverted back to my military training.
To describe what it was like to be there is still very difficult. It didn't seem real, and later on I learned that I was in shock at the time. We were all in shock. Like I said, it just didn't seem real. It was like an apocalyptic movie. Everywhere you looked, things were burning and destroyed. We were worried about, like Tom was saying before, how they were worried about bridges and tunnels being blown up. We were worried about secondary devices. At the time, There were jet planes flying over, so we weren't 100% sure that they were our jet planes. A whole lot of anxiety.
I was a deputy warden in command, assigned to headquarters as the executive officer to the four-star chief, who is the highest uniformed ranking officer in the department. Our headquarters was about 5 to 6 blocks from ground zero. And when the first plane hit, the commissioner who I used to work for called me and said, listen, I'm monitoring the police radios and the fire radios, and they got so many emergency vehicles coming from all different parts of the city down to ground zero. We need to get our staff out and assist NYPD with the people that are running up from the tower so nobody gets hit by cars. So I took about 30 correctional officers, probably 10 captains and a couple of assistant deputy wardens, brought them downtown, put them on both sides of the building, and gave them instructions to try to keep everybody out of the street, keep everybody safe. With that, while we're directing the people out of the streets, the second plane came from behind and blew out the second tower, which the staff that was with me, standing next to me, we witnessed that personally. And we didn't think it was a plane, we thought it was a bomb because of the delayed reaction. We didn't see the plane come from the back. Now with that, the first building that was hit, they were evacuating. The second building was told to stay in place. And now the second plane hit, so now the second building started evacuating. And now there's more and more vehicles coming from all over the city, and hundreds, if not thousands of people evacuating from the towers, coming up, trying to get away from the towers. With that, we're watching, witnessing people that are above the fire actually holding hands and jumping out because they had a choice. Either they were gonna burn up or they were gonna just jump. And that's the way a lot of them ended their lives.
After we had the hose line set up, we were on the pile and we were digging, trying to find somebody in the void, what have you. I'm sure the guys will remember, everybody saying, be quiet, right? We're trying to hear if somebody's screaming or tapping on steel or what have you. The smoke that we were seeing come from the pile, I had at the time a little more than 3 years on the job, so I was still kind of new. The guys that I was with, 30-year firefighters, were not uncommon. They were saying, see that smoke over there? Stay away from it. There was stuff that they were saying, it was purple, stuff that was like purple and green and yellow and this really thick, acrid smoke. And guys were saying, we don't know what the hell that is, but stay away from it, it's nasty. So we did the best we could to try to stay away from the smoke, but there was really no avoiding it, we were pretty desperate at that time, knowing that there was a good shot that we could still find somebody alive. So we were taking chances. It was very frustrating because the voids we were going into were blocked. It was a whole load of steel and debris, and we were digging with our hands at the time. Thank God the iron workers and the construction guys came not long. They were pretty much down on the pile with us, hours after, with welding, cutting torches and stuff, and we couldn't did much without them at the time.
You won't.
But yeah, I had the first couple of days of hell there, like we all did, being in shock. And then a list came out of missing fire companies, and my company was on the list, Engine 201 in Brooklyn. 4 to 5 guys that were working were unaccounted for. And in the end, altogether, we know it was 343 firemen. 26 of those 343 I was on a first name basis with, and I did pretty well. So you can imagine how horrible it was to all of a sudden lose 26 guys that you work with, friends. in that way. So it was weeks of going there digging. If you weren't digging, then you would go to memorials. There was started having memorials pretty soon after. Memorials and funerals every day. If you weren't working on the pile, you were trying to go to as many funerals as you could. Normally on a line of duty fire death, there's 9,000 firemen show up for the funeral, but because there were so many at the time, it was sometimes 8 a day, 8, 9, 10 a day, so you couldn't make it. You made it to the ones you could. So this went on for months, right? It's guys getting their eyes cleaned out, their sinuses cleaned out, back, every day back and forth. We had four memorials for my company because we hadn't recovered their bodies at the time. We did 4 memorials for the families, and then we found the first guy in December. And in the months following, we were able to bring all 4. We were able to bring all 4 of them home. I don't want to get into the grotesque parts, but we saw some stuff down there that people shouldn't see. Well, was it?
Nobody, I don't care how trained you are, cop, firefighter, government, somebody who worked for the government in FBI, Secret Service, whatever. Nobody's programmed to wake up and see that kind of devastation. Firefighters are trained to go into a burning building and perhaps see a burning body, and that's disturbing. A police officer is trained to be in a shootout and to see somebody shot. But on that scale of that magnitude of devastation and destruction, nobody is programmed to see that. I don't care, and I'll call anybody out and challenge them and read their bullshit meter if they said it didn't bother them. I can block everything out I saw for the 5.5 days I was there. And there was some nasty, gruesome stuff there. It might come back to haunt me down the road, but what I can't block out ever is the smell of Ground Zero. I'll never be able to, and that's probably why I don't sleep well at night, because if I think about the smell long enough, it will engulf me and it will ruin the rest of my day or the following day.
There wasn't a whole lot of people that we were able to help. I mean, other than the first couple hours and and the people that were trapped in that staircase, the miracle staircase, there wasn't tens of thousands of people that we were thinking that needed help, and after that 48-hour period I was telling you before, after the first 48 hours, my captain started ordering guys to go home. Because we hadn't been there, we hadn't had a shower or a decent meal or rested, even for that matter. He was ordering guys to go home because he seen that we were exhausted. I did not want to leave, and I had never seen the captain get upset. Or like in the fire department, guys just know what to do. The captain doesn't really have to order. Everybody has a job, they know what to do. So to have the captain yell was very rare, especially my captain. He was cool as a cucumber. But he was yelling at us to go home, get off the pot, go, get out of here. And I still struggle with that. At that moment, I did not want to leave. We got a ride, myself and 3 other firemen from my company, to get it out of Manhattan. Like Tom mentioned before, you had to walk or take a boat. We were lucky we had a NYPD Harbor unit was down there, and they offered to take us back to Brooklyn. They gave us a ride, and then we walked up to 4th Avenue, and we started walking back towards the firehouse. We had our bunker gear on, so it was pretty obvious. People knew what was going on with firemen. It still seems unreal to me, but everybody basically stopped. I'm talking about people that were around driving their cars, walking on the street. They just stopped, and they started clapping for us. You look, hanging out of their windows, clapping for us and stuff. And all I kept thinking about was, what are they clapping for me for? Why are they clapping for us? We didn't save anybody. We couldn't save anybody.
The pandemic became political right away. There was no common enemy. Politics overcame science. But 9/11, we all had a common enemy. And people that hung out the windows and clapped, or people that were on West Side Highway for weeks, giving away free work boots, gloves, everything. They needed a hero. And whether it was uniform or non-uniform, if they knew you were going in and out of ground zero, you were that hero. Do you remember 2010 when we got the bill passed and everybody's jumping up and down and everybody's hugging and everybody's clapping? And I'm sitting there.
We only got a 5-year bill.
And I was like, we got 5 years. We got more work to do. Meanwhile, everybody's high-fiving, and I get it. Everybody was emotional. I just sat there. We got more work to do. And then in 2015, we get a bill passed, and everybody's jumping up and down and hugging. And I'm sitting there going, we're going to run out of money. And in 2019...
Oh, really, 2018, you and I.
Yeah.
Started.
And in 2018, we get a bill passed. Everybody wants to take credit for our work. And we like, for what? Why is everybody jumping up and down? This should have been done so long ago. I never understood that getting legislation passed or working on the pile deserved nothing more than a good job. You have a 58% chance of getting cancer before the general population if you were affected by the toxin at ground zero. Tom is a cancer survivor from 9/11. Any 9/11 responder who has not had cancer, and tens of thousands of them have already had cancer, everybody's looking over their shoulder of when they're next. Not if you're gonna get it, but when you're gonna get it. That is rampant in the 9/11. When COVID came out, there was the same response in the 9/11 community. Not if I'm gonna, when I'm gonna, if, and the panic of those who had COVID. And sadly, we lost a lot of good people from COVID who survived 9/11 cancer or pulmonary fibrosis, and then COVID took them because they were too weak to fight it because of their compromised immune system. We go to DC or Albany or somewhere else, not giving a shit if you're a Republican or a Democrat, or if you're black or white, or if you're Jewish or Muslim. We want to know Are you an asshole? Or do you believe in humanity and do you have empathy? We want to know you're going to do the right thing. And that's where we challenge your humanity. So yeah, we're angry. And I think I'm pretty safe to say I'm going to be angry the rest of my life.
And John talked about smell. And my correction guys worked the morgue. And Joe talked about fires. And every morning, one of the first things I did was get dressed and go down and get the midnight tour. I worked 7 at night to 7 in the morning, go down and see them coming off. And that one hole in that fire burned. And every day there was a fireman up there spraying water into that hole. I don't know how. It was like
99 days.
99
99 days.
It just kept on burning.
5,000 degrees.
And I'd be driving down the West Side Highway because I lived in Yonkers at the time. And I'm like, when the hell is this fire going to go out? But getting back to the morgue and talking about the smell, it's something that John said he will never forget, something I will never forget, because the first time I was brought into the actual morgue where they were bringing the body parts in the body bags, it's something that lives every day in my mind. That smell is something, even if I find a dead mouse in a trap in my house in the wintertime, it's like a flashback of the smell of dealing with the dead. And it's something that will live with me and the rest of us for the rest of our lives.
Every day's Tuesday, right? Because every day's 9/11. It's just a day that hasn't ended. You know, come this 20-year anniversary, it'd be 1,040 Tuesdays.